Okay, so we have reached the moment where we will integrate a pickup system that will eventually evolve in some kind of very basic inventory system. But we'll try to pick this gun up instead of walking over it and triggering it. Because if I'm marking it and hitting Control B and venturing into the gun, we can see here that we have a sphere collision, and when overlapping it, we're making a hard cast to the blueprint player, and I've talked about that probably isn't such a good idea, and they even state here that it probably isn't the most optimal thing, and they also state that this is a singleton, a very isolated blueprint class that doesn't really inherit from anything. So we'll begin to fix that, and we will have several different items. So going into the items here, we'll create a parent class for the items that are belonging in the world. And most items in games have a 3-part structure. So you have an item can belong in the world, it can belong into an inventory, and it can belong in the hands of the player. So it can have 3 different states and showcase itself in 3 different versions. So for example, if it's only purely in the inventory, it basically only needs an image of the item. So it doesn't really need to fully load all the meshes and sounds and all of those things. So for streamlining a project, it's good to separate these 3. So this one that we can see in the world is a world item. So we'll begin by making a blueprint class that is an actor, and we'll name it BPP blueprint parent. So this signals that this particular blueprint is a parent and will never ever be placed into the world on its own. It's only the children that will be placed in the world. So this one just stays as a reference as a parent. BP item world. So going into this one will be the interactable base of things that all the other things will inherit from. So in here we'll search for tag and add a new tag called interactable, because we have set up the lookat system to search for interactables. Super important to spell it correctly. Save it. And we also need to add, removing the tag there, an interface. So we need to add an interface here. I'm searching for the interface that we have created, interactable. So if we're looking in implement event, we're looking and we're stopped looking. These will eventually have outline effects and stuff like that, so we know if we're close enough to pick it up. But for now, we will make a print, so we know what's going on. The same as we did before. Hello, we're appending that. Append. And looking at self. Reference to self and hooking that one in. And just to make sure that everything works, we're doing the same here. Stopped looking at this object. Right, compiling and saving. This is it for now. So this new item will be the base for our currently singleton item here. But if we take a look at the class settings here, we can see up here a parent class actor. This is the C++ version, and we just need to reconnect it, reparent it to our newly created other actor here, that is BPP. So in parent class, we type BPP item world and save it. So nothing happened because there's not too much going on in the item world, but we immediately got these things here. So we want to be able to move ahead and click a button to pick this item up. So how to do that? So first we need some kind of interact event. So venturing into the framework interfaces, opening up the BPI interactable. We were looking at the on looking at and on stop looking at. We're adding a new one, naming it on interact, stating that we have pressed the button and we need to we want to do something here. So the on interact, venturing back into the rifle, not the parent, in the rifle where we actually do this overlap. Instead of the overlap, we want to have the on interact. Implement this event. So when we are interacting with it, we want to add it to our system, and the way that this system currently works is that we are adding a weapon component to the player character. So it's searching for an actor object reference. So it will just add a component to any given actor. So this one needs to kind of have an option to deliver that. So when we talk, when we give access to the mailman and deliver this to this mailbox, we want to deliver ourselves so we can hook it up. So moving into the back here into the object of interact, we're gonna add an input and make it an actor. Scrolling down, so we get this pure actor object reference, and name it instigator. So this is the one that actually sent the mail, so we can pass this along. We will do that shortly. So passing this one along, but going back to the rifle and compiling, this one shows an error because we need to compile the parent, because that's where the interface is located. So compiling the parent and then going back to the rifle and compiling. We didn't fix it. Compiling and saving. Deleting it, compiling. Then it shows up. Implement. All right, let's be like that then. So I just deleted it and added it again. So here we're adding the component with the instigator and unhooking this. I'm not deleting it just yet. It could be there as a reference until we're made sure that it actually works. So this should be the end state of things. So how do we do that? So we want to be able to press a button. We need yet another button. So we need to go into the player and the inputs. And we have actions here. So we want to press it the same as we're doing with the crouch and the jump. So we could mark the crouch and hit Control D to duplicate it, make a duplication, and name it input action interact. Save all of these. And we also need, as we did before, hook it up into one of these mappings. Which ones? I prefer to place this type of interact on the player controller, so that we can interact no matter what pawn we control. So moving into the menu, just clicking here, we have already added this menu button, which is tied to escape. We're adding a new one, that is interact, and this we can choose which button. I'm going for F. Press F to pay respect. Save it. So now we have prepped it, and where to put it, I talked about having it in the player controller. So we obviously need to go into the player controller. We can close this one is done. I think we can close this one for now as well, leaving these open. We're going into the player controller, and that is located in player blueprints. Here we have the PC base, player controller base. We're staring at the menu that we added. So right clicking and writing interact. Enhanced input action, interact. There we go. So we need to get some kind of state to send the mail. We always need the address to send the mail, because we have the interface currently. I think we might be able to search for that right away. On interact, do we have it? Yeah, the BP interactable on interact. So the instigator is the pawn that we're controlling, because that's where it will be attached on the actual pawn. So we can pass that one along. And how do we do that? We're in the controller, but the controller knows what kind of pawn it controls. So we can search for controlled pawn, get controlled pawn, and it spits out a pawn that we can hook up into the instigator. So that should work. So when we trigger it, we should interact, but we also need the target. And what is the target? Well, we're saving the target. It complains because it doesn't have a target here when I compile. We're saving the target. Where do we save it? In the look at component that we were making previously. So going into the look at component, let's see here, blueprints, components. So this one is keeping track on what we're looking at and saving it in here. So this one, interactable current, this one holds the value on what we're currently looking at. So we can use that one. So how to fetch that? It's located on a component that is attached on the player pawn. So moving back here, get controlled pawn, we can use this still. So we're grabbing the data pin here, pulling it out, and then writing get component. We get a lot of different options here, and this one, it marks the wrong one. So if we scroll up, we can see here actor, get component by class, and other options here as well. But it's the component by class that we're after. And here we can choose to just search for the BPC, the blueprint component, look at. So now we're getting this one. And if this one is valid, this is always good to make a valid check in this option, because if we're hitting interact and it turns out that the pawn does not have this component, it will crash. So we're pushing out from this data pin and writing is valid. So we're just checking, did we actually have a look at component? So if it's valid, then we're interacting. But now we actually have this component and we're inside this component, so we can grab from this data pin and get current, get interactable current. So this is actually what we're currently looking at. So that is the address for the mailman. So that is the address where we want to deliver this mail of on interact. Slightly complicated perhaps, but that's how it works. So let's check it out. Should we try to make this a little bit more readable perhaps? Like this. We can stack them on each other like so, maybe? No, let's stack them like this. There we go. This is readable. This works. Saving it, and we will test it. So I'm moving forward to the gun. I'm looking at the gun. I'm hitting F. I picked it up. It works. And now it also works because we have actually added a component to our player. That is marvelous. We have circumvented the we got an error here that it's pending kill because we're sending an event that it's about to be destroyed. So we can take a short look at that one. Going into the rifle, this is what's going on. So when we picked it up, we're destroying this actor. So it's only a warning. We could deal with that later, but that's why it's pumping out the error. Because this one is destroyed while this in the parent is still shooting off an event that, oh, we have stopped looking at you. We need to fix the error. The warning isn't that bad because a warning won't crash the game, but we should fix warnings as soon as we find them. So this warning warns that we try to communicate with something that is about to be destroyed. So we should not communicate with it if that's the case. So we can go into, we actually have to venture into our blueprint component look at. So here we are trying to talk to this actor that is about to be destroyed. So we could convert this one, so right clicking on this one and adding convert to valid get. So this little fella, so if it's valid, then we're sending a stopped looking at. But if it's not valid, then we're not sending the value. I'm dropping it here and typing reroute to get a reroute node here, just for readability in code. Then we're just assigning the value. Then we're just skipping. If it's not valid, then we just skip this one and just assign it to being not valid. Compiling. So now testing. Looking at it, hitting F. We picked it up, it works. And we can escape, and we did not receive an error. So we have effectively made some great leaps here, but we have a problem. We can actually look at it from here and pick it up. So we need to have some kind of system to track how far away we are. Oh, how should we do that? Well, as it turns out, we have this. We actually save the distance on tick, so we constantly know how far we are by this one. So we can deliver this. We can push this feature into the looking at. So the looking at knows how far away we are. So this one could hold a different value. So we need to go into our content browser, and into the interface, the BPI interactable. So on looking at currently has, if I'm right clicking it, so on looking at we don't have an option to deliver anything. So on input we will deliver a float named distance to player, because we're delivering this to the actor. So the actor needs to know how far it is to the player. So the mailman is delivering values to the actor. So compiling this, going back to the look at, we can now see that we have this input here. So what should we deliver? Well, obviously this, the distance to the interactable. We hook that one in. The distance to the interactable. So now we're delivering it. This one is unsaved. We can save everything and see what's going on. Since we updated a value, and then everything needs to be saved that holds that value. So where do we do it for the gun? The pickup gun? Well, it has a parent nowadays called BP item world. So we need to go in there because here we have this value. So this is just for references. This will eventually disappear. We just pushing it back here. So the distance to player is saving it. Promote to a variable. So we know, so if this one is constantly updated, the distance to player. So the distance to player needs to be adapted somehow. So now this is saved. So we go into the pickup rifle. We can delete that one as well in the pickup rifle. So we only have this code. It's not much in the pickup rifle nowadays, but here we have this interact. So we should not be able to interact when we're too far away. So we need a branch, holding down B and pressing. And how to calculate this? We don't have the value here because we're in a child, so we need to press this little cog here and choose show inherited variables. Clicking that one, we can see the distance to player. Get distance to player. And we need to compare it with something. We need to compare it to a static value on how far we should allow this. So marking the distance to player, hitting Control D to make a new one. We can make a new value called pickup range. And this value could be, for now, hard-coded into the system. We'll make a player-based system soon, but for now we're just gonna hard-code it into 200, 2 meters. This is obviously bad. We're hard-coding a value into a blueprint that exists in the world, telling the player how it should behave. So we need to have a centralized version for this, but for now we're hard-coding it. So pickup range, we need to compare these two. So the distance to player, so if the distance to player is less than, not greater, less than or equal to this one, we should be able to pick it up. But if it's not, then we shouldn't do anything. So this one, we hook in like this. So if this is true, we're close enough and we can pick it up. So if I'm standing over here, I'm obviously looking at it. It's spewing out debug messages. Hitting F, nothing happens. I'm moving closer. I'm close. Picking it up. It works. Like a charm. So now we can clean the gun up ever so slightly, because we don't need this sphere collision that we have around the gun. Just deleting it. Blam. And and saving it. And we're going into the content browser, taking a look. We can close everything down here to make it less. We're basically done. We're just gonna make a tiny tweak here with items, weapon, grenade launcher. This one is called BP pickup rifle. We'll rename it to BP. It's correct. It's a blueprint that we can place into the world. Let's make it BP item grenade launcher world. And we can rename this one for now to hold the correct values to BPC blueprint component. BPC grenade launcher equipped, because that is when we are actually holding it. We currently don't have an inventory system, so we're ignoring the third option of having yet another blueprint here with the inventory version of it. So we only have two for now, but we're gonna leave it at that. So this one still, for some reason, holds the value of, holds the name of BP pickup rifle in the one file per actor system. So just to avoid hassle, I'm deleting it and saving it, and I'm pulling in the item grenade launcher world into the level, saving it. We're looking at the item grenade launcher world. I can't pick it up because I'm too far away. So everything is tidied up and working. Wrapping it up. Live long and prosper.